Hi, everybody. So, I was sitting here reading my journal from when I was 16 years old and when I got to meet Sathya Sai Baba in person um, in India. The first time I went to India and my first time meeting him in person. And I haven't read this in uh, I don't know how many years, but of course I kept it and I was thinking I would share some of it with you because my time with Sathya Sai Baba just had such a huge impact on my life. I don't know if any of you know anything about him, but if you Google him, or even especially if you search for him on YouTube, there is a plethora of videos by his devotees describing amazing stories of encounters with Sathya Sai Baba, whether they were in person or um, on more of a metaphysical plane, because he was an avatar. And I don't know if you know what an avatar is. If you Google that, you can see also what that means, at least in the Hindu tradition, okay? Um, Avatars come to help humanity when there is a great need for righteousness to be restored on the earth. And Ram was an avatar, Krishna was an avatar, Sathya Sai Baba was an avatar. His first incarnation as Sai Baba, he was known as Shirdi Sai Baba, who is also on YouTube, and if you Google him, he's on the internet. And he's supposed to come back in a third incarnation. Some say he may already have reincarnated because he passed away in the Sathya Sai Baba body. He passed away in 2011. And he's supposed to incarnate again as Prema Sai Baba. There's a lot of information about that. If you're interested in looking for it, it's there. But Sathya Sai Baba had a huge impact on my life, like I said, because I truly believe I met God incarnate when I met him. He it's indescribable. If you had the chance to meet him in person, the bliss, the unconditional love that he radiated, it's like no other being on this planet that I've ever met in my entire life. And so, like I said, it was very memorable and very precious experience. And so I thought maybe I'd read a little bit from the diary of the journal, when I was in India and actually with him, what I wrote. So let's see, there's several pages in here and I won't read all of it because it's a lot, and I'll just read out some of the parts that really stood out to me. So I was there in July of 1991. I was 16 years old. And on July 11th, I wrote, at morning darshan. Darshan is when you get to sit in the crowd and witness the guru walking through, giving his blessings to everyone. And a darshan is literally just being blessed with the grace of seeing the Guru in person. So at morning darshan, I had the most amazing experience of my life. I was in the front row at darshan, and I had the privilege of touching Sai Baba's feet. And anyone who's of the Hindu tradition or that knows about gurus knows that touching the guru's feet is something that is a huge blessing. Basically, it's recognizing that the guru is the supreme consciousness, and there's like a transmission of grace if you're allowed to touch his feet. So, seeing as how Sathya Sai Baba was an avatar, which is the embodiment of supreme consciousness, and he was extremely powerful. I just was overwhelmed that I had the grace of God. I was blessed with the grace of God and able to touch his feet. So, and that was the first time I got to do that. He stood in front of me. He was walking by, and I was so blessed to be able to be in the front row of darshan. There's, thousands of people there. So it was amazing to be able to be in the front row, and he walked right by me, and he stopped in front of me, and he moved his robe, and I got to touch his feet, and I just felt so blessed. That was what that entry was about. And then on the 17th, I was blessed with, July 17th, I was blessed with being in the front row at darshan again. And Baba walked right by, and he asked, "Where are you from? Where are you from?" And I was with a group. I was with my family and a couple of family friends, close family friends that had come with us. And so my older sister, she answered Arizona. And then it was that day, actually, that my entire family, we had been there since, for probably about, by that time, maybe 12 days in India. And my little sister, she was a baby. She wasn't a small baby, but she was about 5 years old. And so it was hard on my mother trying to take care of a 5-year-old in the ashram, because I could tell you a little bit about the conditions there too. Let's see, in the ashram, when we first arrived, this is Sathya Sai Baba's ashram in Bangalore, and this was in 1991, so it's probably a lot different now. But at that time, when we first arrived, we were assigned to a place called the Sheds. And the sheds were dirty. There were bathrooms. They had a lot of spiders. And so we were there for a couple of days. We were going to darshan each day. And I wrote, "Baba has looked at me 3 times. The first time he smiled, and it was a wonderful feeling. And then once at darshan, I managed to get a piece of candy that he blessed. But, I got one, and my little sister, who was 5, was next to me, and she started crying because she didn't get one. So I handed her mine, and she stopped crying. But we were very blessed because even though we were in the sheds for a couple of days, or think it was only 1 or 2 nights. It really wasn't that long because we had a large family. Um, we managed to get assigned a roundhouse room. The roundhouse rooms were nicer. They were concrete rooms with their own bathroom. It was like a one big concrete room that had an attached bathroom. So that was it, but there's a lot more privacy than in the sheds. In the sheds, there were clotheslines hanging up that people were putting sheets over to try to have some privacy because it was like a kind of like a big warehouse room. And so there was tons of people in there and basically no privacy, and you're sleeping on the floor, maybe with a mat. And then you go out to use the toilet facilities. But the roundhouse, it was like luxury compared to that because you had your own concrete room with an attached concrete bathroom that had a shower and a toilet. And so there were 8 of us in there because even though there was only 6 of us in our actual family, we let the 2 family friends that had come move with us. And so there were 8 of us in that one big concrete room, and we were sleeping on mats like head to toe. There was no room to move around, but it was luxury compared to the sheds. And it says I got to visit Puntaji Ravi Shankar for a few minutes. Yeah, I hadn't thought about that in years. I did get to meet him before. He's also on YouTube. He's awesome. Very sweet, very loving. Another guru. And then my mom and I, we took a taxi and we went to Ramana Maharishi's ashram. And we wanted to stay overnight, but there were no rooms. So we just stopped off there for a little bit and got to absorb some of the grace. And then we took the taxi back to Sathya Sai Baba's ashram, to our room in the roundhouse. And then let's see. When I actually ended up finally having my interview with Sathya Sai Baba on July 18th, 1991. The night before, everyone in my family left, and as well as the 2 family friends, because they were tired of the conditions and they were ready to go. So they left, but my dad, fortunately, stayed, and I was given the chance to stay with him if I wanted to, and I took it. So I stayed with my dad, and the next morning after everyone else left, my dad and I got an interview with Sathya Sai Baba, which is a huge blessing because an interview means you get to be in close contact with Sai Baba. You got to be in a private room and converse with him for maybe like a half an hour. So that day I wrote, Baba gave us an interview. I just got back. I was pretty nervous and scared. Remember, I was 16, so. He said to me, "Where's your boyfriend?" And he said, "I will give you a good boyfriend. I will give you a good husband." He asked me, "What are you studying?" I said, "Well, all different things." He said, No. You study hard. I will give you a good career." He told me to study hard at least 2 or 3 times. I was very nervous and I even cried a little bit. So there was only 6 of us in the interview room. It was me and my dad and 4 other people. He said to me at least twice, "You are always thinking, thinking, thinking. You worry too much fear. Don't worry, be happy." And he gave us some vibhuti. And I remember I was still in shock after the interview because most people that go, they don't get an interview. It's a huge blessing just to be able to go, but to get an interview is like amazing. Most people don't get one. So I was in shock that I had gotten one with my dad. And I remember I was so confused. I didn't know what Baba wanted me to study. And I was actually really confused about him saying that he would give me a good boyfriend and a good husband, especially the husband, because and even a good career, because I hadn't asked for those things. You see, like I described in my first introduction video, if you watched that, when I met Sathya Sai Baba, it was just such a huge blessing. I had been communicating with him prior to the actual physical meeting on a metaphysical level. He was coming to me and we were communicating. So I already was very well connected with him. And I had already asked him for what I really wanted and still do want, which is permanent freedom from the cycle of birth and death in this lifetime, and to always live in the glory of God. That was what I asked him for. And instead, when I met him in person, he said, "I'll give you a good husband, I'll give you a good career." And so it was really shocking for me. Which, it was wonderful that he said that. And I am still, after all these years, just barely starting to understand what he meant by that. I finally figured out that by studying, he didn't mean going to school and studying. He meant my spiritual studies and learning how to really develop the closeness of being close to God that I've worked on all these years and that I work at every day to maintain. And I understand now that that was what he meant. And I never really had a traditional career or even a regular relationship that was a husband and wife relationship. And now things are just barely starting to open up for me after having studied and studied and studied as he told me to. So I'm really very happy with that, and at a level of contentment that I've never felt before in my life. And the other masters that I've met since Sathya Sai Baba, who I believe Sai Baba sent me to, such as Karuna Mai and Mohanji. They've only helped me get closer to fulfilling Sathya Sai Baba's promises to me. And that's where I'm at today. Now it's been 20 minutes, so I think I'm going to end this now. But thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Om Sai Ram.